Hello fans, collectors, investors, welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I'm Iconic Al, and I am pumped for this one. This is number 8 on my top 100 countdown, the highest ranking Pittsburgh Pirate on my list, the greatest shortstop of all time, the quintessential 5-tool player of his time, and we have a special guest cameo coming in this video, so stay tuned. This man won 8 batting titles. He compiled 131 WAR, stealing 723 bases along the way, and being widely regarded as the greatest defensive shortstop of his era. There is no comparison. There has never been a shortstop before or since that can match the greatness of the Flying Dutchman, the phenomenal Honus Wagner.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
I started out in 1889. My first minor league experience, I was 15 years of age. And in Major League in 1897 with Louisville, President Barty Dreyfus, I played for him 21 years. Sure glad again to be in this old game of baseball. Got that old hot sundown beating on you. I think there's a little difference in baseball now between when I started out and what she is now. Pitchers got harder work. In other words, they ain't allowed to use the spit ball, the emery, and the mud ball, and the shine ball. And now you also need a heavier glove, and I used to wear one with nothing but the fingers on. Now I got to use this padding because they come down there just a little bit warmer. I'll be out there and practice some now. Okay? Come on, Gus. All right, come on, Doc. Let's have another, baby. 2, Tony. Get him over there. Come on. That's the baby. All right, come on, Cap. One out now. You got to go. You got to run the wind. Let's go there, Cap. Come on, fine. Now hit the dirt when you win there. Fine start now. Come on, boy. Let's go. There you are. 2-0 now. Get ready, boy. Get ready. Get on this one. Come on now. Here we go. Let's go now. Come on, Benny. Here we go. Come on. Fly. Oh, get on, Gruber. Oh. Far back in here. All right. Outside a half an inch, Steve.
Born in 1874 in Chartiers, Pennsylvania, Honus Wagner is universally regarded as the greatest all-around shortstop of all time. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates between 1897 and 1917. Known as the Flying Dutchman, he compiled 131 WAR over that time, batting .328 with a .391 on-base percentage. He won 8 batting titles, compiling 3,420 hits. Although the home run was not a big part of the game back then, he showed his power, as evidenced by his 101 home runs and 643 doubles. He also hit 252 triples. He's well known for being the greatest defensive shortstop of his and maybe any era. A part of his game that is not really talked about is his speed. He stole 723 bases, winning 5 stolen base titles during his career. So he truly was the quintessential 5-tool player. He could do everything on the field to beat you. His career OPS of 858 and OPS plus of 151 round out the picture of a very elite player. He put in peak WAR seasons of 10.2 in 1905, 9.3 in 1906, a 9 WAR season in 1907, an 11.5 WAR in 1908, and a 9.2 WAR in 1909, that being the World Series championship year, where he led his Pirates past Ty Cobb's Tigers in 7 games. In that World Series, by the way, Honus outplayed Ty Cobb, hitting .333 with a .467 on-base percentage, driving in 6 runs, stealing 6 bases, hitting 2 doubles, and a triple. A phenomenal series for Honus. It really showed his true colors. As someone who grew up in Pittsburgh, as an avid fan, collector, and historian of the game, there is a mysticism around Honus Wagner that it's hard to explain. From the legend and exorbitant price of his T206 card to great anecdotes, there's such a rich history surrounding this man. But at the end of the day, Honus Wagner was a natural ball player. His most famous quote is simply, "There ain't much to being a ball player if you're a ball player." And in fitting fashion, he was elected with the first class of the Baseball Hall of Fame. And his plaque is a little more impressive than most. Quote, "The greatest shortstop in baseball history, period." Born in Carnegie, PA, February 24th, 1874, known to fame as Honus or Hans and the Flying Dutchman. Retired in 1917, having scored more runs, made more hits, and stole more bases than any other player in the history of his league, period. Before we delve into my Honus collection, I am truly honored to present fellow Pittsburgh native and hobby icon John Mangini of the Mangini Collection, as he shares his playing days Honus Wagner collection.
Do you know what I like to do when Al reaches out to me and asks me to participate in his video? I like to look at some baseball cards. Alright, I'm going to show you some Honus Wagner cards now. First, I have from 1909, the E101. It's a fantastic card. Then we have from 1910, Standard Caramel. Beautiful red background. And from 1910, we have the very rare W555. These are blank back. And a super rare one too. 1909 W.M. Dick postcard. These came with the team that won the 1909 World Series. I'm not sure if they were produced during the season or at that time. I know they were in 1909 because the postcard is in 1909 at the end of the year. It's possible they were produced during the World Series or before it. These came attached, kind of like an accordion, with the other players. It was one big postcard. Here's a 1910 orange border. These were cut off of candy boxes. These are very scarce. That's a team card. And obviously, Honus Wagner's on there from that great 1909 World Series championship team. One of my favorite sets, and this is my favorite Honus Wagner, is the Colgan's chip. This is the tin they came in. They were known as the only round gum. I believe there were multiple pieces of round gum in there, and you got a baseball card. Here we have a 1914 Polo Grounds game card. That's a great image of Honus. That's what those look like. And here we have a 1916 Ferguson Bakery pennant. And I love this thing. And a great image of Honus there. And lastly, here is a 1924 Mrs. Sherlock's pin. I believe Mrs. Sherlock's was a bread company. So that's what I have for you. Al, thanks for letting me participate. And thanks for watching.
Thank you so much, John. Like everyone else watching, I am floored with your Playing Days Wagners. I hope to own some Playing Days Wagner piece someday, but in the meantime, it is an honor to ogle yours. So thank you so much for contributing to this video. Anyone out there, if you somehow haven't found John's channel, it's the Mangini Collection on YouTube, and one of the best resources for learning about the hobby that there is. So thank you so much, John. Okay, on to my Honus items, which are post-playing days. You could call them coaching days, Wagners. First, let's start with this really unique 1949 Leaf Honus Wagner, listed here as John Wagner. This card just makes me laugh. It's sort of like one of those Island of Misfit cards type of cards. It flies in the face of some of those other classic, Warhol-esque iconic images from this set, like the Ted Williams or the Jackie Robinson or the Stan Musial, that are just, indelible images of beauty. Whereas here you have Honus, an aging coach, about to put tobacco in his mouth. It's just really funny to me. But I think it's a charming card, and I've always loved it. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I was able to really find a nice copy in a 3 that appears to be more like a 5. Still not quite sure why or how the 3 happened, but I don't mind. It means I got it cheaper. But just a really beautiful issue here. Beautiful copy of this card. The centering isn't horrible. The registration is great, color is great, and it's just a great, honest copy of this card from his coaching days with the Pirates. The total PSA population on this card is 790, so it's available, but not too available, and just a really good post-playing days issue that I love. And next up is my autograph, one of the nicest and most valuable items in my collection. And it's kind of crazy how I came to possess it. So I'll just go back to the beginning. It was about 2018, and I have saved searches on my eBay as everyone else does. And one of my saved searches was Honus Wagner signed, Honus Wagner autograph. I saved all those to my terms that would come up if a new item got listed. And one day I was scrolling through my saved searches, as I always do, and lo and behold, a new piece popped up for Honus Wagner autograph. And so I clicked on it. It took me to a listing that said simply, Honus Wagner autograph. And so I immediately clicked on that listing, and it was an album. It was an album of random writings, a couple signatures that were insignificant, only had a few pictures of various pages, and it was $100. Buy it now. It was unauthenticated. It was completely at my own risk. But the Wagner signature, there was a pretty good picture of it, and it looked pretty good. It looked pretty much spot on from examples from the 40s that I've seen. So I took a chance, took a flyer on the spot, just bought it now for $100. A week later, it came in the mail, fully intact in the album. In fact, here's a picture of it still in the album from when I got it. And at that time, there was a piece of poetry or prose on the back. And since I've had this since mounted to an acid-free backing, the poem is no longer visible. But here's what it said on the back of this. It still says on the back of this autograph. Dear Patsy, 3 were in the parlor. He, the parlor lamp, and she. 3's a crowd, there is no doubt. And so the parlor lamp went out. Love, Evelyn Moffin. So that's just a random poem that happened to be on the back of this page that I wanted to take a picture of that before I had this mounted and slabbed eventually. But I thought it was funny. I don't know what it means really. I don't know if it's sort of suggestive of 2 people getting intimate. I'm not sure, but the writings from that album tend to be 40s, early 40s. So I'm assuming this is probably an early 40s Honus Wagner signature, probably from when he was a coach. And I was, overjoyed when I sent it to PSA, and it came back fully authentic and slabbed, as you see it now. So again, it's sort of just a fortuitous occurrence that I was able to procure such a beautiful example of Wagner's signature. There's no way I would have otherwise been able to afford this piece. So it's just one of those things in the hobby. Sometimes you take chances and you lose. I've done that plenty of times. Sometimes you take chances and you win. And this is probably my biggest win of my life in the hobby. Just, it all worked out. So thank you so much for sharing in my joy on this piece. And then last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the elephant in the room. Aside from that 52 mantle, probably the most iconic card in the hobby, the 1909 T206 Honus Wagner. And this is my reprint copy of the card. And it's just kind of one that I need to mention because of the prices it gets, how iconic it is. This is probably a 90s reprint. Mentions it as being a total value of $100,000, which states it a little bit. Now I think the latest copy sold for over 6 million. So that gives you an idea of where the values have gone on cards like this. It says on the card here, he legally forced the tobacco firms to take his card off the market, which kind of feeds into the lore around this card. Upon further research, it seems more likely that there was some contractual dispute where Wagner didn't feel like he was being paid enough money for his likeness or for his image. So that's why his card got pulled, not because he had something against tobacco use, because clearly tobacco use he was no stranger to. Anyway, had to mention the iconic T206 Wagner, a card that I and none of you will ever have. Nevertheless, a beautiful image. And as we saw on Mangidi's copy of the Colgan's chip, you can still own the image without owning the card. So something I will keep in mind. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It, as always, has been an honor and a joy to share my collection. Stay tuned until next week where we will get into number 7 on the countdown. Until then, keep collecting and stay iconic.